of the Virginia Beach Development Authority for May 18th, 2021. I'm going to open up the floor for public comment, and public comment is available to those who registered before 3 o'clock yesterday to speak. And we have 9 folks signed up to speak this morning. So I will go in order, and if I call your name, you can go ahead and go up to the podium. And you've got 3 minutes to speak on the agenda item that you've registered for. Kara Moran is the first speaker we've got signed up.
Good morning, Chair Murphy and members of the authority. My name is Kara Moran. I currently serve as an appointee on the Virginia Council on Women, the Vice Chair of Sister Cities of Virginia Beach, and Secretary of Vanguard Landing. And today I'm here as a resident of Virginia Beach. 2 years ago, I was approached about joining the board of Vanguard Landing, and honestly, I was unsure if I would be a good fit. I am blessed, like many of you, with a healthy child. She just finished her freshman year in college, and as a parent, I share many of your same concerns as many of you do with your children regarding her future, safety, success, and happiness. I realize that my concerns for my daughter are nothing compared to what a parent with a child with intellectual disabilities goes through every single night before they fall asleep. Who will love and care for my child when I'm gone? Vanguard Landing will not only alleviate those concerns for over 100 full-time residents and their families, but will also complement the lives of close to 50 additional day program participants, allowing more parents to go to work. Accepting both private pay options and Medicaid waivers for rent and services will allow Vanguard Landing to be an option to many families, most importantly, military families which participate in the Exceptional Family Members Program throughout Tidewater. Naval Air Station Oceana is one of the few bases in the world which provides military families with additional services needed for family members with intellectual disabilities. We have potential in the future of being able to collaborate with that program and show our appreciation to military families. People with intellectual disabilities have federally funded waivers, which the state matches, and can be used in group homes. These group homes charge much more than Vanguard Landing, and with Vanguard Landing charging less, coupled with the private pay option available, we will be saving Virginia taxpayers money, and Vanguard Landing will be doing something that government cannot do at a reduced cost to everyone involved. In June, local Teamsters 822 is hosting a golf tournament for Vanguard Landing. The International Brotherhood of Teamsters has people flying in from Chicago, New York, and New Jersey, recognizing our organization's importance, hard work, and dedication to this important project, as well as Virginia Beach as a tourist destination. I was happy to see Mr. Franklin's most recent quote. Successful businesses are defined by more than annual profits. Innovative leaders understand their organizations have a unique opportunity to give back to communities where they live and work, while we are in a very unique position this morning. With this project and voting yes on an 18-month extension, like so many other extension for-profit companies have acquired to date, we can show exemplary leadership skills. You will be voting to support a viable, self-sustaining, nonprofit organization which solves the problem for the Commonwealth of Virginia while also displaying compassion and humanity for our most vulnerable community. This opportunity does not happen very often. So I ask you this morning for 2 things. Please vote yes for an 18-month extension for our project, but more importantly, tonight before you go to sleep, reflect on what your vote this morning means to other parents and families of people with intellectual disabilities, and work with us to ensure that our residents' families have the opportunity of a good night's sleep.
All right, thank you, Ms. Moran. We've got other folks signed. Okay, Laura Haddock is our next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Lori Haddock, and over the past 33 years, I've had the privilege of working with and befriending so many wonderful people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, ranging from infants to senior citizens. My experience includes, but is not limited to, home-based respites, group home respites, 25 years as a classroom special education teacher, program compliance support for special education, a trained therapeutic foster parent, special education committee chair, and a special education department chair. My experience spans the continuum of services. And over the years, I've listened to the concerns of so many parents as they've shared their fears about their child's future. The sad fact is that options and choices for people with special needs after the public school system is extremely limited. I've had numerous conversations over the years with my colleagues about the fears that parents have shared with us. We all agree that more programs, activities, and residential options are desperately needed. Our conversations generally end with, wouldn't it be wonderful if somebody would do something to solve this problem? And then nothing ever gets done, and the problem remains, until now. After years of research, planning, and hard work, Debbie Deere and the team that she has gathered have worked to bring Vanguard Landing to the cusp of groundbreaking. Because of her idea and her plan for the future, the questions that all parents with a special needs child have, which is what will happen to my child or my adult child when I die, it's their biggest fear, and for so many, it's been laid to rest. Vanguard Landing will be the answer to so many families' prayers, our fellow citizens. How much is this type of peace of mind worth? It's priceless, at least to these families, but obviously not to everybody. To continue to ignore the most vulnerable people right here in Virginia Beach, to purposely take away the opportunity for them to have a full life living to their utmost potential is negligent. As a citizen of Virginia Beach for over 50 years, I think we're better than this. Matter of fact, I know we are. I strongly urge you to support Vanguard Landing as they move forward to build this wonderful community, this much-needed wonderful community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker we have is Lori Bridges.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today about a project that is near and dear to my heart, Vanguard Landing. Vanguard Landing is located at 2020 Princess Anne Road. This land was acquired by a loan that was given by a most supportive city council in 2014. This intentional community will have beautiful apartment cottages, an equestrian center, a bakery, a gym, and numerous amenities that are sure to be shining stars for Virginia Beach. As members of the Development Authority, you are tasked with wondering about the who, the what, and the where of projects. I'm asking you today to focus on the who. And quite frankly, the who of Vanguard Landing are the most ignored, most underserved, and most overlooked members of our community, adults with intellectual disabilities. You see, when they're kids, all kids are cute, even those with intellectual delays. The little boy with Down syndrome on your child's t-ball team, the little girl cheering on the sidelines with autism, they bring smiles to everyone. Once they're in school, they become important members of their school community. They attend classes, participate in the polar plunge, Special Olympics, and other sporting events. They attend dances. They become sports managers of their teams. They even become student athletes. Some go on to earn the titles of prom king and prom queen. But what happens once they graduate? Quite simply, the community leaves them. You see, when my son graduates in 2 years, there will be no more school buddies. There will be no more Friday night football games. There will be no more dances to attend. There will be no more teachers to mentor him. While his typical learning peers will go on to graduate, they will go from school to college and career. He will graduate, he will go from school to the sofa. It's our responsibility as caring, compassionate members of Virginia Beach to ensure that these important members become a meaningful part of our community. And Vanguard Landing will do just that. You see, they want what we all want. They want a place where they feel safe and secure, a place where they can interact with their peers and pursue hobbies, a place to work and contribute to society, a place of acceptance. Gandhi said that the true measure of a society is how it treats its most vulnerable. So I'm asking you today, Virginia Beach, please continue this partnership and let's be an example to communities everywhere on how to treat the most vulnerable. Thank you.
Next speaker is Julie Harshaw.
is Julie Harshaw, and my husband is Chip Harshaw. We've lived in Virginia Beach for over 26 years, and my husband has been a curator at the aquarium since we've resided here. I want to tell you a brief story about a little 2-year-old blonde-haired, green-eyed boy who lived in an orphanage in Siberia for 17 years ago. He was brought here by a family who loved and cared for him 17 years ago. They struggled to understand him. He had many issues that were not easily diagnosed or maintained for a very long time. After years, it was discovered by specialists that he has fetal alcohol syndrome. There are things that he cannot do because of his intellectual disabilities, but instead of focusing on the things that he can't do, his family chose to focus on the things that he can do. This young man is now 19 years old. He loves the beach, fishing, being around animals and nature, helping others, and being a huge part of this community. He attends Princess Anne High School in the West Wing, a section of the school that is for students for special needs, until he's 21, that is. He runs track at Princess Anne until he's 21. He is in the Young Life Capernaum section until he's 21. He's in the Therapeutic Recreation Center camp until he's 21. There's an underlying theme here, I'm pretty sure you can hear. What happens to these kids after they turn 21? As you can hear, they pretty much become invisible. The community has nothing left. They become the side seat passengers of family members running errands. They spend hours watching TV. They are at home, they become bored, and they become lonely. Just when most people are beginning their lives, theirs is coming to a halt. They deserve more than this. They deserve a place where they can thrive, a place that not only they can call home, but a place that opens up a whole new world of possibilities for them. Vanguard Landing will offer this and so much more for them. There, our adults will be able to live their lives as independently as they are able to, but also be safe. They will learn new skills daily, have jobs that will be fulfilling, be around friends that will love them, be immersed in nature and animals, give back to our community, and yet still be close to family at the same time. Vanguard Landing would offer something that Virginia and Hampton Roads, which so far is truly lacking. Let's put ourselves on the map and show that we can provide and speak for those that cannot speak for themselves. I'd like you to meet this young man that I've been telling you about so far. A man who is nearing that age of 21. The young man that is near and dear to my heart and my son, Roman Harshaw.
Roman is our next speaker.
But Roman's the next speaker on the list. So Roman, can you tell us a little bit about why you're excited about Vanguard Landing?
I'm excited about Vanguard Landing because it gives me a chance to do what other regular people do. Because when I'm 21, I won't have anything else to do, but I could just sit around and watch TV all day or something like that. So Vanguard Landing will give me a choice to be with people, friends, be close to my loving mother. And she loves animals just like I do, and my dad. So I want to work at Vanguard Landing to help the community for other people, just like I'm very helpful too.
What are some jobs that you'd like to do at Vanguard?
Some jobs I want to work at Vanguard Landing is to work with animals, just like my family does, because who loves animals here, actually?
You want to see a raise of hands of who likes animals? Everybody does, don't they? What's your favorite animal?
My favorite animal is actually dolphins.
Dolphins. Well, we probably won't have dolphins there.
Well, my other favorite animal is horses, because my mom used to work with horses, and they would have a horse stable there and other jobs I would love to do. And I would like to, when I work at Vanguard Landing, I want to work with helping animals, helping people what they would need help with.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Roman? I know we have any more questions.
I have a question. Roman, what kinds of services is Vanguard Landing offering to you right now? They've been around since 2010. What kind of services are you getting now from the organization?
what have you been able to do? You've got the singing that you've done.
Yes, I sing because I have a beautiful voice.
He's not shy, believe me.
No.
You've gotten to meet new friends.
New people I've never met before. That's why I went to Princess Anne and other jobs I would like to do. Not just because I want to work with animals, then I can meet new people I've never met in before, and friends I've already met. And
He actually has got to work with some of the horses through Debbie that will be at Vanguard Landing too. So he's got to meet some of those horses and learn how to work around horses and be careful around them. Right?
yes,
And just remember Hope, the little pony.
yes, I remember Hope. I used to help out or do horseback riding in Pongo at an old horse stable. I used to know the owner. She was a very nice lady. She would help with like special needs kids too, and she taught me a lot of things about taking care of horses and helping people. And if Vanguard Landing was built, we could help a lot of people in need in this world.
Thank you, Roman. We appreciate you coming this morning. All right, our next speaker is Terry Stevens, who we've accidentally skipped over. My apologies.
Good morning, Chair Murphy and members of the Development Authority. Thank you for volunteering your time to serve on this important committee. I too am a volunteer. I volunteer by serving on the board of 2 local nonprofit charities that both seek to improve the lives of the most vulnerable in our city, Connect with a Wish and Vanguard Landing. I joined the board of Vanguard Landing not because I have a child with special needs, but because I have friends and neighbors who do. In fact, one of my son's closest friends has Down syndrome. When he finishes high school, I know he will benefit from the day program at Vanguard Landing. And I also know that his single mother will rest easy knowing that he is in a safe and rewarding environment while she is working to support her family. I am here as a citizen of Virginia Beach in support of a project that I believe in. In college, I was a math major. My degree is in actuarial science and mathematics with a minor in accounting. Numbers are important, let's face it. They're important to me as a taxpayer, and they're certainly important to you on the Development Authority. Your job on economic development is to look out for the best interests of the city of Virginia Beach from a numbers standpoint. So let's talk about some numbers. What's Vanguard Landing going to do for our city? Vanguard Landing will provide over 100 full-time, well-paid jobs when fully built. Plus, Vanguard Landing will offer on-site employment for the 180 full-time residents and 50 participants in the day program. Vanguard Landing will also partner with local businesses to provide off-site employment for any interested residents. In addition to the plethora of new jobs, parents of future residents are already looking to relocate to this area in anticipation of this planned community. This means more home sales, more residents frequenting our shops, more at our restaurants, and using local services. That translates into more real estate tax, more personal property tax, and more sales tax for the city of Virginia Beach. Vanguard Landing is also well poised to host conferences and symposiums such as the COACT project, which is a national leadership symposium for post-secondary providers and brings together thought leaders, organizations, and like-minded professionals in the field of intellectual disability. This translates to more visitors to the city of Virginia Beach, producing more hotel stays and lodging tax. The citizens of Virginia Beach and the Commonwealth of Virginia support this project. Give Local 757 was held just last week on Tuesday, May 11th. Vanguard Landing raised more money than over 200 other local nonprofit charities participating in Give Local. And they raised $65,000 more than the next highest charity. In fact, to date, over 800 people have shown their support by donating a record-breaking amount of more than $160,000 via Give Local to Vanguard Landing.
You could wrap
Vanguard
up.
Landing is excited to continue its partnership with the Virginia Beach Economic Development and the City of Virginia Beach to bring this new economic driver to our city. I hope that each of you will support this important project as it is a financial win for everyone, including the taxpayers in Virginia Beach, by producing more real estate tax, more personal property tax, more sales tax, and more lodging tax for the City of Virginia Beach.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens.
Thank you for your time and service to our city. Please vote yes to the 18-month extension. Our city is stronger together, so let's work together and get this important project done for our city.
Next
Thank you.
speaker is Bernadette Miller.
You might want to mention Clemson. They don't seem to know that that's what this child was.
You want to sit down? You're after me. You want to sit down? You want to stand by me? Okay.
So we have two speakers with the last name Miller, Bernadette and Mary, and I assume that's both of you. Okay.
Wait. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Virginia Beach Development Authority. I'm Bernadette Miller. My husband and I are both military veterans, and we live in Hampton. With Vanguard Landing here in Virginia Beach, we're looking to move. That's just a sidebar. It got up as others were speaking, and I did want to include that as well. I would first like to, well, I'm saying it, excuse me, publicly thank the Virginia Beach City Council and the City of Virginia Beach Development Authority for embracing progressive foresight to help facilitate a critical public-private team which embraces Vanguard Landing. This team is to be lauded as they work together collaboratively to bring this intentionally planned community for adults with physical and developmental disabilities to our area. Accomplishing this task of becoming the first of its kind in the state of Virginia will bring forth a stellar reputation of embracing not only inclusion of the most vulnerable in our community, but also seeking that diversity to connect to others of different than you and building on those relationships. According to the Arc of Virginia, there are over 12,000 Virginians with developmental disabilities on the state wait list to receive community-based support. My daughter is one of those on the wait list. She's been there for 14 years. In the military, she had the waiver. In Virginia, it's another, in Pennsylvania, she lost it when we got to Virginia. My daughter is one of those on the wait list. She too will be speaking to the authority. As evident, Vanguard is a perfect choice to support and enhance the lives of those Virginians. I come here today not only as a mother, but as a servant of God who wants to do good, helping citizens and civic leaders understand that inclusiveness and diversity make our community more neighborly in Christ's love. As Jesus ascended into heaven last Thursday, on Ascension Thursday, acts of advocacy, charity, and goodwill are left to his humble servants to do his work. There is something bigger than ourselves or profit. Establishing a community where the residents can choose how to live, work, and play in a safe environment allows families peace of mind that their loved ones will sustain a happy and full life. Living with aging parents, people with disabilities may become more dependent on their aging parents, and that's a challenge all around. They will miss out on so much that life has to offer, all the while becoming possibly more isolated. Parents can't drive, parents are sick. Who's going to help these people? I go to bed thinking of this every night. It weighs heavy on my mind.
You could wrap up, Ms. Miller, and
Yes, I will. I'm sorry. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to address the authority and have my voice heard and acknowledgement of my concerns. Mary, it's your turn. Okay.
It's great.
There you go, sweetie.
Hi, I am Mary Miller. I am 90 years old. I vote one day would like to live on my own, but am going to need support. I enjoy speaking people about diabetes awareness, meeting new people, and learning new things are something Vanguard Landing would give me the right support so I can live, work, and play with friends. Thank you for a given time, given me time to let you know that I am thankful that the Vanguard Landing will a place for people to live a I am happy and full life. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Bernadette. Our last speaker is Ron Jackson.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I don't have any prepared notes.
That's good.
I'm trying to do this by memory. I was hoping you wouldn't call me, but
Well, you signed up.
I'm kind of looking at this a different way. My son Chad is 35. He does work. He has 3 jobs. He will live at Vanguard Landing if I'm fortunate enough to get there. I was born in Prince Anne County in 1947. I was a school bus driver when I was 16 in the school system because they didn't have any drivers. I went in the Corps in 7 years in Vietnam. That has nothing to do with Vanguard Landing, but I came back and married my beautiful wife, and my son was born in '85. In 1986, I met Phyllis Jackson of the Infant Stimulation Program. Anybody familiar with that? Yes, ma'am. They were in a classroom at a church on Great Neck Road. I walked in and said to Phyllis, I said, "This is a whole program." Yeah, it is. 27 children in the room about the size of a tenth of this room. And I said, well, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to build you a building. And I did that on Great Neck Road and gave it to the city. Infant Stimulation Program. Chad and I did that. He was with me every week. The next project was Dennis Wool and Jay Lazier asked me to build a daycare center. I think is that the correct word, Debbie? With profound facility. So I did that on Independence Boulevard and Office Park with Chad and some help from the Kiwanis Club, and donated that to the city. When my wife came home one day, it was about 2, I'll back up. She said, I want you to go to a transportation meeting with me. And I said, I don't want to go to a transportation meeting. Chad's not going to go to public school, he's going to private school. I've got to get him all the help I can. She said, I'd like for you to go with me. So I said, okay, I will. So I went to the meeting, and it was in a church, a bit larger than a classroom. And I listened to the transportation director talk about the yellow school buses. On the way home,
Seconds.
I said, if I can't let Chad walk out to the corner with a book bag and lunchbox, I'm going to isolate him from his peers. so he went to school on school bus. Graduated at Conks High School, 3.9, lettered in track and football.
Wonderful.
My daughter came home, she works with one of the committees with Whitney Deere one day, and she said, "Dad, you really got to help Debbie. Nobody can build that if you don't." I thought about Chad again. I have a place for Chad to go if something happens to me, but I said, it won't be the same because he won't be with his peers. He won't have a place that he can be with his peers, just like the school bus.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. If you could wrap up, we've got.
I'm done. The whole idea was to have a personal view, but I have contributed a lot to the city, and I have a lot of belief that the city will do the right thing. I don't know there's any harm in letting them have them for a little more time. But I'm involved in getting it done, so I'm going to get it done if you give me the time.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We appreciate your time this morning. Thank you to all of the speakers. That wraps up our public speakers for the public comment period. We're going to go into the next item on the agenda, which is a review and approval of the meeting minutes. Oh, review and approval of the meeting minutes.
Yeah, just a minute.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
Move. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the financials. It looks like Mr. Adams is going to
Just one
be
pick.
handling that this morning. Okay.
We thought that this might be a busy meeting, so we've shortened the formal parts of the conversation. But so we'll just give you a quick look at the consent account summary. We started the month with just less than 2.9 million. No significant receipts during the month of April, which is for the members of the public who may or may not be interested in our financials that are with us today. That's common this time of year as we're in the last quarter of our fiscal year, and July 1, when the city's new fiscal year begins, we start to see activity on the revenue side again. Related to disbursements, we'll see some ongoing studies related to Atlantic Park, legal fees associated with the same project, and then we had total EDIP Part A and Part E payments of $66,000. Part A is our traditional EDIP program. Again, Part E, of course, is the small business program that you all allowed us to initiate with City Council's assistance during the pandemic that we're finishing up now. And then we paid the rent for our Bio Accelerator, which is now open. We are actively recruiting. Ending cash for April, $2.66 million. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions for Taylor? All right, moving on, the next item on the agenda is a request for approval of a resolution consenting to the sale of Atlantis Apartments by the current owner.
Yes, Madam Chair. As you recall, the authority approved the issuance of bonds for a new purchaser for the Atlantis Apartments back in December. They are getting ready to close the sale. The current owner is paying off bonds that this body authorized in the late 90s. And the bond council was concerned we hadn't expressly approved the sale, even though we authorized bonds for the sale. So this is really a cleanup matter to make sure an auditor is happy. We would just ask your approval expressly consenting to the sale.
And Madam Chair, just since we have a lot of members of the public here, just important to note, industrial revenue bonds for which this authority serves as a conduit issuer are not debt of the city.
Thank you. All right, can I get a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Request for resolution. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor of that, say aye.
Madam Chair, Mr. Franklin, abstain.
Oh, okay, Mr. Franklin's abstaining. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
What's the second on that?
Kenny, thank you. All right, Taylor, the next item on the agenda is a briefing regarding the Vanguard Landing loan forbearance.
Yes, ma'am, I'll introduce the item. And first, thanks to all the members of the public that are with us today. Also would like to welcome my colleague, the city's auditor, Lyndon Ramirez. And I know that Eddie Burdone is here on behalf of Vanguard Landing. This is a matter that, the matter that's before you today is, it comes out of an audit that was conducted by Mr. Ramirez that subsequently was briefed to this body. A letter was issued to Vanguard Landing, basically providing 60 days to respond to us. As you remember, last month, we offered, at the request of Ms. Deere, to come and brief this body. We extended, we indicated that we would, as we were unable to docket Ms. Deere for the April meeting, because that agenda had already been published, we agreed that we would we would allow an opportunity for her or her representative to speak at this meeting, and so that is where we are today. One of the things that also was, as it relates to the 60-day, to the letter that was written requiring a 60-day response, one of the things that we discussed last month was that we would, at minimum, extend that by 3 weeks to allow for the time that that was lost as we were unable to accommodate the April briefing. With that, I'm happy to take any questions for me as it relates to anything that has happened between our last briefing and present, or I'm happy to allow Vanguard Landing to begin their briefing.
Yeah, I think we have a question, Tim.
Just for the benefit of everybody who's maybe watching this isn't intimately familiar, can you give just a 2-second Development Authority background on where it started and how we...
Absolutely. So, and Alex, this is gonna be stream of consciousness, so clean up anything I get wrong. So, and that's and that's just it's always our goal to be accurate in front of the public. And so, give or take 7 years ago, there was a piece of privately held real estate in the Princess Anne district that was available. Ms. Deere, not speaking for her, but Ms. Deere was working on the Vanguard Landing project. She approached council members. Council members cannot appropriate money, or city council is not allowed to appropriate money to private entities. But there was the will of the body at that time was to extend a loan to Ms. Deere to assist in acquisition of the property. That money was appropriated from city council to the authority. The authority, I believe that we're in on or about July of 2015, something like that. The authority did in fact vote to grant Ms. Deere an interest-free loan on or about the amount of $2.8 million for acquisition of the property. At that point, this authority became a lien holder. It's important to note that as a lien holder, that is all that we are here. This authority is a lien holder. We do not have rights to the real estate. Your only option, if you were to choose not to move forward, be to foreclose on the property, which would not gain the city or this authority title to the property. But moving on from that, we entered a 5-year window where Ms. Deere was working to secure funding to begin construction on the project. We were set. I believe our initial window expired early in 2019. Ms. Deere met with me and with some of the leadership of the authority at that time. It was believed that we were close enough to the finish line that we would press on. The pandemic happened in 2020, and we find ourselves here in 2021.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Taylor at this time? Okay. Let's go ahead and hear from Mr. Burdon. Good morning.
Good morning. Chairman Murphy, members of the authority, Eddie Burdon. I have been retained by the board of directors of Vanguard Landing. They have been represented by RJ and Rob Beeman and Troutman Sanders since 2013. But because I've got intimate knowledge of the stormwater issues pertaining to what was once Transition Area 3, where this property is located just to the north of Asheville Park and across Sand Road from Sherwood Lakes. Been living this problem for since late 2013, early 2014. And so they asked me if I would help. What really made me help was what you heard this morning, as well as my deep affinity for Bob Miller. And we'll get into that in just a minute. Just to kind of add on to what Taylor had to say, Ms. Deere and her team actually began planning this project in 2007. In 2010, she and her team had multiple meetings with city leaders at that time to explain the goals and the need for a project like this in Virginia Beach and what it would entail. This was the first of its kind in Virginia, intentional community. You've heard about it this morning. I can't question what you've already heard. Mayor Sessoms, City Manager Spoor were absolutely ecstatic and enthusiastically agreed to support her efforts. This was late in 2010. Trying to find property is a real chore today, and it was a chore then. In June of 2013, this land its 3 parcels was located. I had the pleasure of representing 2 of the owners of 2 of the properties, the Munden family owners. The firefighters union owned the other piece. The city council was briefed about this, and they enthusiastically, unanimously said move forward. In February of 2014, the funding was approved and the deal was closed. They had not yet even gone to city council for the zoning. That happened a couple of months later. Under the terms of 2 of the contracts, the owners were allowed to remain in possession, continue to raise their crops and farm the property until July of 2015. Bob Miller was involved from the beginning on this project. In late 2013, I was retained by HomeFed, the developer. Well, HomeFed purchased Asheville Park in 2008 with the real estate crash from the Sandler companies, and they were trying to develop, at that point, the 3rd village in Asheville Park, adjacent just to the south and east of this property. They had had some issues. The entire infrastructure for Asheville Park had been put in place, planned, bonded, approved by the city, and built back in 2008. But with the first 2 phases, they were already experiencing some issues with street flooding that they didn't really understand. They wanted to move some of the new units to be built into the highest property on the property, the highest part of the property. And so we started down that road. There were numerous meetings with city staff and engineering, primarily, and Bob and the team at MSA. They thought they had it all figured out, and we started moving forward for a hearing for the Planning Commission. Hurricane Matthew showed up, and lo and behold, we had a serious, serious problem. And because of that, and because of Bob's intimate knowledge of what was going on in that area, specific and unique to Back Bay and wind tide and the failure of the city and the engineering community to deal with that wind tide and the tailwater elevations in Back Bay, that's what was causing the problem, and they were not insignificant problems. Dave Hansen, you got to give him credit, recognized this was a serious problem and basically shut everything down there. He ordered a top to bottom review of what went wrong and why we had the problems we had in that part of the city. And that included Sherwood Lakes. They've got some commercial property in front of Sherwood Lakes on Princess Anne Road. Hasn't been developed yet either. And Bob went back to the folks with Vanguard Landing and explained to them they were ready to go. And in middle of 2015 and beyond, they'd started with site plan preparation, looking at getting an E&S bond and E&S plans and starting to do some work on the ground. And Bob said, well, we've got some issues here. with drainage in this area, this subcatchment, that's now what it's called. And, you know, we'd be wasting our time at this point and our money. Let's focus on getting the building plans done with the architects, getting all the things we can get done. But until the city completes this review, we're really in a position where we can't get a site plan reviewed and submitted and approved. And so they stood down, they did what they were instructed they should do, and frankly, it was extremely wise. They were also told that by people in the planning department and DSC. You know, look, now's not the time to come in with a site plan. There was some contemplation of going ahead and trying to move forward so as to avoid new rules that after a year and a half, it became clear they were going to adopt new rules. They hired Dewberry to do a third-party review from the outside of the stormwater problems down there. And it became, you know, it was well known at that point that there were going to be a lot of changes, including resiliency and sea level rise and climate change provisions. So Debbie and her team, the last thing they would ever want is for these folks that we're going to provide these services to live in a community that flooded. So what did they do? The only thing that made any sense to do, and that's they waited. City of Virginia Beach, Tom Leahy, city manager, finally in June of last year approved the new stormwater guidelines and policies for the city of Virginia Beach. Unfortunately, they could theoretically have gotten a site plan submitted late last year. But as I think most of you know, Bob Miller was in the last stages of brain cancer. His firm obviously was in some, you know, disarray. That's probably too strong a word, but they were having issues. Everyone knew Bob. So unfortunately, the site plan didn't get submitted late last year, which is the earliest it could have been submitted, but it has been submitted now. And based on what we've been experiencing with site plan review, and you can't get financing, folks, without an approved site plan. You can't build one house, as back 7 years ago now almost, on the property without infrastructure, which requires a site plan. So no site plan could possibly been approved. They were prudent and did what they should have done, and now we have this tempest in a teapot. Now, the reality is that the top level of city leadership knew all about this. Taylor mentioned it. My clients met with Taylor a couple of years ago. Said, you know, we'll extend it, don't worry. There's nothing you could have done any differently. And those are facts, folks. Those are facts. There's now a site plan under review. They've applied for, the application has been filed with Virginia Housing for well over a year. But you can't get a development loan without a site plan. And we couldn't get a site plan approved because the policies were changing unless, again, they tried to slip it in before the policy changed under the old rules, which would have been negligent, to say the least, for someone developing this type of a project, for the type of community that they'd be serving. So we are confident that the site plan can be approved 14, 16 months. Nothing's been approved since these models were adopted. And you all should, you know, there should be a separate conversation about this. But it's not, I'm not here to attack anybody, but the city's engineers are learning how to deal with these models. The private sector engineers are learning how to deal with these models. It is extremely frustrating for everybody involved. But this project, we believe, can get site plan approval within the next 14 to 16 months. And that will be faster than anything else, including 9 houses on the side of Painter Lane with houses on the other side of Painter Lane that took 4 years to get approval without even putting a road in. Asheville Park, it's 2021. They are just now breaking ground on the 3rd village after having been going after that for over 7 years. And that's a multi-billion-dollar company, not these wonderful people who have raised a lot more money than what they've been given credit for. Pledges are how nonprofits work. And people who pledged a lot of money for this project, it's contingent on them getting site plan approval and development loan financing, which I'm convinced they will. And that's why we've asked for an 18-month extension. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Pradhan, I've got a couple questions for you. You do this all the time. If you had a requirement on a loan that you had to have a certificate of occupancy by February of 2019, when would you have submitted a site plan to be able to have a construction complete by that date?
Well, under normal circumstances, back in 2014, let's say, when this was, begun, this project, you would expect you to get your site plan approved where there's no infrastructure to this property. So you'd have to get a lot of plans approved. It would be 9 months, 6 to 9 months to get the construction plans and the site plan approved to build one house.
And so you're telling us the reason they didn't submit a site plan, and that would have been, let's see, I'm trying to do the math going backwards, sometime in the beginning of 2018, so that they could have completed construction of just one building, because that's all the loan requires them to do is complete construction of one building. The reason they didn't submit anything in the spring of 2018 is...
They were advised not to.
And
Development Services Center and city staff and Bob, wasting your time.
yeah.
Because the city at that point had not yet adopted the new stormwater resiliency rules that they were in the process through Dewberry of, putting in place. It was a process that lasted close to 5 years.
But at that point, you would have been in under the old rules.
That's correct. We've been under the
Which would have been an
old rules,
easier
which they were not
process.
going to approve.
Well, it would have been an easier process theoretically, because I think, as you would agree, most people would say the new rules are much more cumbersome, much
No
more.
doubt about it. And had they been any of your or my typical clients, that's exactly what they would have done. But this isn't, and some of the development people that are in this room, you go in but I can tell you that really didn't work, because I've got clients that tried that and it didn't work down there. Okay, that's the Mr. Waller on Painter Lane. That's the St. John's Catholic Church. Let's see, there's a couple other ones. There was a contract on the commercial property in front of Sherwood Lakes, and that dropped. Because Dave Hansen made no secret of the fact that nothing was going to get approved down there until the city got its arms around the problem. And that's good leadership. That's not an indictment of Dave at all. And that's exactly what, Vanguard Landing was faced with. And that's exactly what they did. They followed what they were advised to do. And it wasn't a hard decision to make, given what they're going to be servicing, who they're going to be servicing, what services they're going to provide.
I have one more question, and then I'll kick it to the others. Do you know what the total account balance in the construction fund or the building fund for this project is, Vanguard Landing?
They have, this is all I'm authorized to say, they have greater than 7 figures in the bank, and they have pledges that are also greater than 7 figures. And if you all want to have some type of a closed session, my clients are more than willing to talk privately about that.
And I think we will go into a closed session, but that wouldn't be something that would be open to the outsiders. It would be for this body to deliberate. Any questions? Taylor, you want to go?
Yeah, one question. Is there a way to take down the land with private donations or the 7 figures that's in the bank? Could you take it down early and get the authority out of it?
Well, what we have viewed, or the entire project's been viewed as a partnership between the city and Vanguard Landing. What they will be providing is something that is sorely needed for a community that's sorely underserved, not only in Virginia Beach, but Hampton Roads and all of Virginia. There are folks from Richmond, Northern Virginia, who are huge supporters, as well as our local community that you've heard from some of them today. So it is our desire and goal to remain in a great partnership with the city of Virginia Beach. My remarks today are not in any way attempting to degrade the city. The city's been a great partner with this. Unfortunately, because Vanguard, and they did make a mistake, all it would have taken was to send in a 2-paragraph letter. As Mr. Fox had talked to me a week or so ago, these annual reports, there wasn't anything to report because everybody knew what was going on, but they should have sent a letter in. If that had happened, the city auditor might have had a better picture of what the facts were. But that didn't happen. That's on Vanguard. At the same time, Taylor and the Development Authority, the staff, understood exactly what was going on. But the answer to your question is, could that happen? Absolutely. Do we think that's in the best interest of the project? No.
My second's a comment. Okay, my second's just a comment. I build affordable housing for a living, so I believe there is a huge need for what you're trying to accomplish. I think that you could probably build 5,000 units and it would probably lease up. So I applaud this organization for what they're trying to do. But that was my second comment. So
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, I think Bill had some questions.
I just have one question. It's rooted in the one comment you said you were basically ready to go in 2015 with the project, and earlier there was a comment, and maybe it was off the cuff, but that the project is on the cusp of groundbreaking. Could I understand what the financial resources are that Vanguard Landing needs, notwithstanding the long-term financing, and where does Vanguard Landing stand now with regard to those financial resources?
First of all, and if I don't get to the second question, refresh my recollection. The statement that I think may have been made, I wasn't involved in any of that, but the statement that they were on the cusp of breaking ground, I can't sit here and tell you that was an accurate representation. I mean, it's just not feasible for a project of this magnitude, or any significant project, a lot less magnitude, to get financing to develop property without a site plan approval, construction plan approval. It just doesn't happen unless you're, there are some people in this room that could maybe do it, but most can't, and it's certainly not a nonprofit. So, I've not ever made that statement, and since I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm not sure how that ever got stated. I do know, though, that loan application had occurred back then, and they were getting good feedback on that. But it's always going to be a condition of the loan closing that you have site plan approval. So, the second question is about how much capital. I'm going to paraphrase. How much capital they need in order to close on the development loan? Yes. Okay. At this point, it's roughly $4 million. Give or take. The project budget, as I understand it, is now slightly under the $40 million that's been quoted.
And so the lenders indicated the amount of private equity they would have to have is $4 million?
Plus or minus. That's the.
To get it done.
And where are we today
Where are we today?
with regard to the $4 million?
Well, on our way.
Mr. Perdon, would it surprise you to know that on your client's website, in a video, Ms. Deere is saying to the public that she's basically got a shovel-ready project?
I don't know about the shovel-ready aspect to it, but they have an approved plan, not a engineered site plan. And they have a willing partner in the city of Virginia Beach to see it through. But there's no way that you can build that project or any other project without an approved site plan, and that was not something that was able to be obtained. And frankly, if they had filed an application, which it would have been impossible, if they filed an application last fall, again, in MSA's circumstances were, they'll tell you that that's part of the reason it wasn't filed by last fall is because their own internal circumstances. But if that had been done, we'd still be looking at another 10 months, 11 months, and based on history, it could be a lot longer than that because nobody's gotten a site plan approved in less than 2 years. Nobody.
Okay.
So is it my understanding that you're now saying you have over $1 million?
That's exactly right.
I mean, we haven't seen those kind of figures, have we?
structurally important.
Yeah, I think let's finish with Mr. Verdon, and then we can hear from the city's auditor.
And we may wish to respond.
We do have more questions for you, though, because their hands up.
That's what I'll wait too, because I've worked with Mrs. Deere through the years from the first time I met her, and she was talking about this great project. And I think everyone is supportive of the project, but I did not realize they had that much money in the bank. So really, our money is not really that important, is it?
Well, yes,
If you have that much money.
It's very important.
Well, I know it will be eventually, but.
It's extremely important because, especially with what has unfortunately transpired in the newspaper this morning, it's extremely important that this authority set the record straight, because it gives the impression that, they've just been sitting around dawdling.
No, I don't think.
But read the newspaper this
Well,
morning.
it's a little early.
And I think that's probably coming from the auditor's report.
I'm just trying to move.
Oh, I thank you, but they've had a lot of fundraisers that I've been to. What was it called? Like and they've raised a lot of money. That's great.
They've also expended a lot of time and effort, and energy getting fully developed plans to build all these buildings as well.
And that's where most of the money has gone, or I'm sure they still have it, as you said. That's just what it's a great project, and we're coming from with the public.
Yeah, and I think the key is that, the general fund dollars that were allocated for this, that have come to, that came to the Development Authority, it was always the intent that it be a loan and the loan have certain terms. And that's, so we have to operate under the authorization that we have and the existing agreement. I think Mike had a question.
Yeah, and this might be for Taylor. Mr. Adams, what is the disadvantage of extending it? What's the downside?
I'll go to the front and answer this one so I can have a second to think.
I love it.
So in an effort not to get ahead of a policy decision made that's got to be made by this body, I think the sense of urgency, any sense of urgency here on behalf of staff and the public is just to ensure that the public is repaid for their investment, which their investment to date is an interest-free loan. So they basically have the ongoing time value of that money, but short of that, it's just the additional time that we're in the deal. One thing I would like to say, unrelated to your question, if I may, which is just a clarifying comment, and regarding my comments from earlier, this is I do want to thank our city auditor. There was one. It's important to note, full disclosure. I mean, when we were having this first conversation in 2019, I think I'd been in this job about 3 months, but that doesn't change anything. I'm fully accountable for the actions of not just myself, but also my staff. And one of the things that we should have done on the staff side is we should have done a better job of giving more frequent updates to this body. When I look around the table, I think 75%, give or take, of the members of this authority today were not here when I arrived in 2019. And so one of the things that I should have done a better job of, and Lyndon pointed that out in his report, and he's exactly right, we should have done a better job of making more frequent updates to this body and making sure that everyone here fully understood the history of this item. But to that, Mr. Standing, to your question, beyond just the additional amount of time that we would be in this deal, I mean, we could come to a calculation on the time value of money, but 10-year T-bills at around 1% right now. So it's not. I mean, I don't know that there's a major financial exposure for the authority.
Well, I mean, as Mr. Verdon and others I know could understand, I mean, we all deal with time value of money. I mean, trying to get a site plan approved around here costs a lot of money, and it's a lot of time, effort, and energy. And through quotes that I heard today. I think Ms. Harshaw said something to the fact of what we can't do. We can't do anything about what the situation we're in, but what can we do? And this, to me, is this is true economic development. This is the basis of our city. And how can we push them to the finish line? And this seems like a simple thing to me, to grant an extension. I just can't even, I can't hear the other noise of what didn't or didn't happen when we're dealing with a project of this magnitude and the stumbling blocks that came along. And I think I heard somewhere in there that they were told that extensions do occur, that we do extensions on these things, and sometimes those aren't in writing. It just happens because we all understand the circumstances, and when that happens, and particularly when members of council change or members of staff change, and it goes from one to the next, and some of these things are slipped and missed, I think this is a beautiful project, and what can we do to help them move along?
All right. Did we have, Bill, did you have a follow-up question? Sorry.
No, that's okay, it's been answered. I had a quick follow-up question.
Yeah.
Sure. Berdon, Mike said, site plan's in. I mean, you wait for comments, I mean, it could take a time.
The site plan is in. Comments, I think, are due next week from first set of comments, but the experience that we've had is, and I'll give one example, and I apologize, but I think it's something it's good for you to understand. There's an out parcel in front of the Harris Teeter right next to the courthouse, okay? My clients submitted an application to put less impervious surface to build townhouses instead of commercial. It was all engineered, the BMPs, everything all there from what Armada Hoffler developed. It took over 3 years. They ran the model 8 times. Now granted, it was new and they were the guinea pig, but that's what these folks would have been doing had they submitted earlier. These models are like the COVID models, and very good job as could be done, but they put information in there based on city records that aren't always accurate about the size of the pipe, the drain pipes, the level of the inverts, the drop inlets, all this stuff. So it has been a bit of a nightmare, but it's the only way to get around the problem. But to answer your question, they're under review. We're optimistic. We know that the DSC folks are they understand the benefit of this project, and they've been very, very supportive. And we think that they will go the extra mile to help us get this thing across the country.
I think that shows that you've spent capital. I mean, it cost a lot of money to get a site plan designed.
Is it a site plan, though, or is it a
$100,000.
preliminary site plan? What has been submitted, a site plan or just a preliminary?
The engineered site plan is under review.
That's several $100,000.
Yes, and
Really? Wow.
it's a lot of investment, and that's why they didn't want to waste that 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That's the whole point.
Thank you. Any other
In
questions?
County, Florida, the same project, essentially the same project. It's where one of the things that Debbie got the inspiration from. It took 12 years from the date of beginning to when they actually broke. This will not take 12 years. And they're the ones spending the money now. And it's not costing the city anything other than zero interest.
Did anybody have any more questions for Mr. Berdon? Any questions for the city auditor? Lyndon Ramirez is here. Any questions for the city auditor? I know we've all gotten the report. Lyndon, I have a couple of questions if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you for being here this morning. Just one question, because I know you've gone through their financial records. Could you, Mr. Berdon didn't know, I guess, the full scope of any type of building or construction account. Can you tell us how much money Vanguard Landing has in the bank for this or any other purpose, based on your review?
Yes, I was on site at Vanguard Landing, I believe it was last month. So I do appreciate the cooperation that the executive director Debbie Deere provided. They made their books open to me, very transparent. I do have, at the time, the most current financial report they provided showed on hand $274,000. And that was as of February 25th. She did subsequently send the March statement, and in March, the expenses exceeded the revenue. So that's probably dropped them down to around $270,000. So I know Mr. Badon mentioned 7 figures, unless it's in another account.
We need to know.
I didn't, I cannot attest to the fact that they're nowhere close to 7 figures in their account.
Okay, Bill's got a question for you.
The cash balance that you referenced, was that from internal financial statements, or was that also reported on their annual 990?
This was actually their monthly financial report. So it was updated. And it reflects pretty much what they showed on their 990 for 2020, which is around $250,000.
So the 990 also had that. Okay, thank you.
And so for the last 3 years, I think that you had records of the loss of money for the 2 prior years, and I think it was in 2019, they maybe
Yes, the
netted
source, the
$4,000.
source of that was the actual 990. So 18, they did show that their expenses exceeded revenue for 18, for 19, and then 2020, they made about $4,000. So on a monthly basis, their cash on hand that's included in their operating, their savings, as well as their investment account is right around $270,000. That's comes straight from their monthly financial report they provided to me, and that they also provide to their.
Bill had a follow-up.
Just one follow-up. We're talking expenses and revenue, but most of this would be capitalized. Do you have access, or do you know what the value of their capitalized assets are at this point?
Really, the only capitalized asset is the land. And I think they have that on the books for about $4 million.
So all of the other costs incurred to date have been expensed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so they're bringing, looking at their financials on a monthly basis, they're bringing in revenue, but that revenue that's coming in is being expensed out. I mean, in the latest monthly financial report for March that I had, March 2021, showed a negative of $4,000.
What's the primary
The money's
expense?
coming in, the money is coming in, and the money's coming out.
What's the primary expense?
They have a lot, they've got obviously they have salaries, to me, the 2 biggest items were salaries and consulting costs. Then they have your monthly operating expenses in regards to insurance, running the website, there's fundraising costs, boarding of animals, insurance. So there's a plethora of expenses. And in reviewing those expenses, those are what I would call appropriate expenses. They were properly supported, but they're barely, the expenses are, the revenue they're bringing in on the monthly basis is barely enough to cover the monthly expenses. So when your revenue is not meeting your monthly expenses, obviously it's difficult to grow that fund balance.
Is it A&E Consulting?
What's that?
The consulting, is that for A&E?
Some of it is A&E, but some of it was for programmatic costs, costs related to getting their various applications to the state in, developing policies and procedures, and programmatic, getting their manuals and so forth, so as to when they're open, they can hit the ground running.
Thank you.
I have one follow-up question to that. Are they providing any services now for which they're obtaining any revenue, for which they're being paid?
I'm not aware of current services that are being provided because, they're not open. So it may be services within the community I'm not sure if it's part of Vanguard Landing, and I'm not sure. Debbie may disagree. There may be other services, but from a programmatic, through Vanguard Landing, I didn't see those type of services.
Thank you. Any other questions for Lyndon? All right, thank you very much. We may have some more. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to recess into a closed session pursuant to the exemptions from open meetings allowed by Section 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia as amended for the following purposes: contracts, discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including interviews of bidders or offerers, and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract, where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A30, and legal advice, consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel. Nothing in this subdivision shall be construed to permit the closure of a meeting merely because an attorney representing the public body is in attendance or consulted on a matter. With that, as I said, the chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
We do a roll
Roll call vote for that, Vicki.
William Brown,
Yes.
William Brunke,
Yes.
Taylor Franklin,
Yes.
Penny Morgan. Yes. Lisa Murphy.
Yes.
Mike Standing.
Yes.
Joe Strange.
Yes.
Ginter Weisenseal.
Yes.
Dot Wood.
Yes.
All right, and so now we'll go into closed session and we'll reconvene at some point. Thank you all.
Thank you.
discussed in the closed session to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Virginia Beach Development Authority. And we'll have a roll call vote on that, Vicki. Vicki, roll call vote.
Roll call.
William Brown,
Yes.
William Bronke,
Yes.
Taylor Franklin,
Yes.
Penny Morgan. Yes. Lisa Murphy.
Yes.
Mike Standing, Joe Strange.
Yeah.
Peter Risenseal,
Yes.
and Dot Wood stepped out for just a minute.
She said she'd be right back.
Yes.
Wait, no. Yeah, I think we can wait for Dot.
Is it possible to cover the other items?
Good question. Sure. Okay. While we're waiting for Dot to come back, let's go ahead and get to the next item on the agenda. Taylor, I think we had a town center request for renewing the parking security agreement.
Yes,
And that
ma'am.
was Alex, sorry.
This is your, the folks who drive around and provide security inside the garage. You approved a 5-year contract. Up to 5-year contract. The initial term was 2 years. This would be the second optional 1-year extension. Same terms. Everyone's happy with it, but it requires a vote of this body.
And so can I get a motion on extending the terms of the town center parking security agreement?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Business,
Madam Chair, given that we're well over the time that we asked you for, item 6 can certainly wait a month. And item 7 is just the next tranche of district improvement program grant approvals. These are fairly straightforward. We had hoped to finish this program this month. We're still gathering final documentation from some of the other applicants. However, so we just have one file to advance, and it's available for your approval. And Emily, the amount of that is?
We have two for 22,000.
22,000 total across 2 awards. These have been reviewed by the District Improvement Plan Grant Committee, and they're ready for your consideration.
Emily, is there anything you want to add about those?
No, I mean, there's two. One's a veterinarian in the Lynnhaven SGA. Lynnhaven SGA for $15,000. They also received another grant, which makes them eligible for the $15,000 rather than the $10,000, and a facade improvement on Atlantic Avenue in the resort for $7,000.
Any questions for Emily on those requests? Chair will entertain a motion on the District Improvement Program grant requests.
Motion.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. It looks like the other items that we have are administrative, informational. Go ahead, oh, here comes Dot. The only other item I think we had to vote on, Taylor, was what to do with the Vanguard landing request. And, you know, we've heard a lot today. Obviously, it's a worthy cause. I want to go out and tell everybody for full transparency, my aunt is developmentally disabled, and so I understand the passion and the concerns that the folks that have spoken have, and you know, we are in a unique position of being a lender of sorts here, so we're in somewhat uncharted territory. So I think we've got the chair will entertain a motion on the request for an extension of the loan forbearance for Vanguard Landing.
Madam Chair, I make the following motion regarding the Vanguard Landing outstanding loan. The motion is that the Virginia Beach Development Authority continue loan forbearance until the Development Authority's next meeting in June, while at this time the staff continues to evaluate potential options and reports back by June.
Okay, we've got a motion from Bill and a second on the motion. Second. Any discussion on that by the commissioners? All right, we've heard some things today. We'd like staff to do a little bit more research for us. So we've got a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. All right, Taylor, did you have any other items for us, informational items?
Nothing that came away for 30 days.
Any priorities from commissioners? All right, hearing none, the chair will actually entertain a motion to recess into another closed session pursuant to the exemptions from open meetings allowed by section 2.2-3711A Code of Virginia as amended for the following purposes: prospective business or industry, discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industry's interest in locating or expanding into facilities in the community pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A5. Contracts, discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including interviews of bidders or offerers and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A30. And I'll entertain a motion on that.
I need to get going.
Okay, Gunter, thank you. Do I have a motion?
Second.
No, I needed a motion.
Bill,
Bill, you can be our
So moved.
motion.
Definitely going back to executive.
Taylor, you're
I'm gonna take
second.
5 minutes and we'll be done.
And let's go to a roll call vote, Vicki, on that.
Who did the second?
Taylor.
What was second?
William Brown,
Yes. We've done two.
William Brumke,
Yes.
Taylor Franklin, Kenny Morgan.
Yes.
Lisa Murphy.
Yes.
Mike Standing,
Yes.
Joe Strange.
Yeah.
Gunther Reisenseal,
He's gone, Vicki.
Dot Wood.
Yes, ma'am, sorry.
All right, so we are in closed session again briefly in a few minutes.
And this is